Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm going to show you a range of ideas that will help to make your home look festive for less. Christmas is a time when we decorate our homes, but that need not cost a fortune. It's great fun to make your own decorations. Not only will it save you money, but there's nothing better than being complimented on your amazing handiwork. During the festive season, it's traditional to hang a wreath on the door or over a mirror in your home. Together, we're going to make a traditional and a contemporary wreath. So let's begin with a traditional one. As you can see on the table, I have a range of ingredients, equipment, items that we are going to need. So let's quickly run through. Obviously we're going to need some foliage. We're going to need some moss, and you need a wreath ring. So we've got a variety of shapes and sizes for the wreath rings. I've got a flat one compared to the raised one. The raised one I prefer if I'm using one for outside because it makes it a little bit more full. And there's also the heart-shaped one, which again is a flat, but you can use exactly the same technique for all three. And what I'm going to show you is the one with the raised wreath ring. So I'm just going to get rid of my extra bits that I don't need for the moment. I'll put those over to the one side. And then in addition to what we've just gone through, you need a reel of real wire, sometimes called binding, sometimes called florist wire. It depends where you look it up, but you can get it online. It's probably about £1.50. To start, you will need to make a loop. So make the loop, and that loop is going to be your guide for when you actually try to hang your wreath up. Once you've got your hook done, that's fine, but you still need to make sure that you can find it. So what I find the most useful is putting a piece of ribbon, and this is curling ribbon, through the end, making a loop, bringing it through and pulling it, and then tying the end. So then you'll be able to see where your hook is, because that's going to be where you're going to hang it. Right. And now the messy job, I'm going to use some doves. I always put these on when I'm doing floristry, mostly when I'm doing wet jobs, because otherwise your hands get affected by the water. Okay, so now I'm going to bind my moss on. So I'm going to bind it so that it goes, the wire goes over the top. I'll keep doing it. And what you need is a roll of your moss. The moss comes and it's quite flat, so you need to tease it out a bit when you get it from the. You can buy it from the florist, or you can buy it online per bag. A bag usually costs around about £2. So you need a roll of it. Make it a little bit like a sausage. Press it up into your ring, and then over. Take the real wire over. Your binding wire over, and then I'm going to come to the other side so that I'm binding that bit on as well. Didn't used to do that, but I found it's much easier when you come to join them up at the end. So another roll, bit like a sausage, roll it together. As you get better at this, you'll find it easier, and you'll be able to make slightly larger rolls or sausages. Push it up, and over you go again. Just holding it carefully so that you don't lose the moss. And then you need to do the whole of this, going right the way round. So here is the completed mossed ring. And as you can see, you can still find the hook to hang it up with. So, next stage is for us to put some greenery, foliage, onto the wreath. I'm going to start off with a variety of conifer. This, in fact, was very inexpensive. In fact, it didn't cost anything because my neighbour, new neighbour, had cut down a huge fir tree that had gone a bit mad. So I've managed to get this for nothing. What I normally do is I normally have 3 pieces of conifer or whatever you're going to be using of greenery and put them together. You need to cut so that each piece is about the size of the length of your hand. And then you need your wire. Now this would be still attached if you'd finished the mossing. So I'm going to add this to here just by pushing underneath, pushing the wire underneath and twisting so that it stays on. And then I'm going to bring it over because I find it easier to add my foliage. We call it greening up by taking the wire over the top. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put the foliage on in what we call a herringbone pattern. So I'll just show you. The first placement will be going into the wreath, and the second placement will be going out, so that you have, as I say, a herringbone pattern. And then you get a nice full wreath. Okay, so let's get rid of those bits because I want 3 to start with. So, and then what you're going to do is you're going to bind with your binding wire, trying to keep that out of the way. Over, over, until it's secure. There we go. So that's your first placement. And then second placement to cover that up, so it goes this way. So you're going on the outside, then the inside, and covering as you go. And cover up and bind. Make it quite tight, and you can see now how the herringbone pattern is working. You've got one going out and one placement coming in. So the second placement has hidden the first placement. And again, over you go and cover it up. Cover up the next placement. You can see it's starting to look quite full. You can also use a range of foliage. You don't have to just use the conifer. This is actually a Christmas tree. Sometimes you use 2 or 3 different varieties, and this is just conifer again that I have got from a friend, and again that's very inexpensive. Try not to make them too long. Just make sure you go putting it the right way. This lifts the colour a little bit. It can be a little bit dull if you use the same foliage. And as you see, it's starting to be quite colourful. The next one I'm going to use, make sure it's going the right way, that's right. And then again I come round. Make it quite tight. And you can see it building up. Okay, so you can see you can build up your wreath with a whole range of different foliage. You continue till you get to the top here, but when you get to the top you need to make sure that if your first placement is going that way, the other one will go underneath so it goes the other way, so continue your herringbone pattern. So now we've come to the top and we've got the final placement of the foliage. You've just got to check that you're going to put it in the right way. So these two, this is the last one, and the first one are going that way. So I've got to make sure that my herringbone pattern continues. So I'm going to put it in the other way, and then just literally finish that off, tie it in, give it a really good pull so you're tightening it well. And sometimes put an extra bit in at this point, because sometimes it needs to be a little bit more puffed out. So pull, keep pulling, and as you can see, we're back to the top. Okay, now finishing it off, go on the back and have a look and see what's going on. Turn it upside down. Take a good old length of wire, and you're going to sew this in. So pick up as if you've got a needle, pull and go between the rim, or the edge rather, of the ring, and keep pulling. And when you haven't got very much left, you can push that in, push the wire in, and then it won't. So put a hook on it and push it in so it finishes off and stops it from falling out. So there we have our completed wreath ring, ready for decoration. I'll just move this across for a minute and we'll just show one or two techniques. Because it's a traditional wreath, we're going to use fruits, dried fruits, cinnamon sticks and cones just to decorate it, and then we'll put a ribbon on the top as well, or maybe on the bottom, we'll decide in a moment. Okay, so we're going to wire very, very quickly. Get a couple of slices of fruit together. I'm going to make this into 3. So I've got this one into orange and apple. Push the wire through and snip it off and just twist it all together. It's a bit floppy, but it will be held in your wreath. So that's the apple and orange slices. I'm going to snip that off first this time. Then feed that through around about the middle of your orange slice. You can make these if you want to make them yourself. Put them, slice your oranges very thinly, put them in the oven for 3 hours on Mark 1 or about 100, and they will dry out. You can buy them obviously as well. So yes, we've got 2 of those. Let's see. Okay, right, okay. And the cinnamon sticks, basically, you just wire those together, and you can also cover them with raffia. So what I normally do is I have a length of raffia about 30 centimetres, take it down the middle, and then just wrap it round. Keep one, I think, a tail there, and this is covering up your. And take it round the back of your wire to tie it. So that's the finished cinnamon stick bundle finished off with the raffia. Okay, I'm going to take my gloves off now because I'm going to show you how to wire the cones. And it's more tricky to wire the cones with your gloves on. I have got some here already done, but let's just very quickly go over it. You can use your binding wire, and you just feed the wire into the scales at the bottom of the cone and twist. Leave an end because you're going to attach those to the wreath. One more. So quickly, once again, feed it into the scales and twist. Now cones you can pick up, you can buy them, but obviously if you're thinking about trying to be thrifty, you can pick them up. September's the best time to pick them up. So let's think about where we're going to place our accessories. I'm going to move this across so that I've got a better idea. Find the top. The top, obviously it's handy to know where the top is. And then you can actually put two cones together like that and twist the two together. And if it's strong enough, you can push if the wires are strong enough, push your wires in. We've got some more in here, so join them together. Already done. 3 or 5 placements works really well. I find that works quite well on most wreaths that you make. So just push it in. So moving on then, still finding the top. I know where the top is. I'm going to add some cinnamon and oranges. And it's nice sometimes to join them together. So just twist the 2 lots of wire together and then slot it in. And you can just wire, as this fine wire it round your foliage, and that'll keep it. And then you can press that in. Right, that's fine. And then again, join it together, turn it round. And you'll probably notice that I'm putting these on so that they're coming off the side, which is nicer because it gives you a better shape. They're coming off the side. These are more central, and then another one. You want to see if it's balanced. If it isn't balanced, then that's fine. A couple of apple slices as well. Put those inside, which makes it look a little bit more interesting. Just push that in. Apple slice there. Obviously the sky's the limit, whatever you want to put in, entirely up to you, but that's a relatively inexpensive way of making your ring. And you need, lastly, we'll just make a bow. You'll need a piece of ribbon about 1 meter and a bit long, and then you're going to make a loop. You're going to make a figure of 8, press it in the middle, press that there, and then wire the centre, cut it off, and then twist it. And the ends of the ribbon you need to cut at an angle that makes it look quite interesting, and then attach it to the top of your wreath. Got a nice long piece of wire here, so I can take it right round and take it underneath one of the placements. And then join it, just twist it together on the back. You see I'm twisting that so that it goes together. Press the ends back in to the moss. So just check the ribbon, make sure that it's the right length that you require, and if not, just take your scissors and just snip a little bit off. This ribbon is wired, so you can actually fold that ribbon to give it a little bit more form. But there we are, that's the final touch to your traditional wreath, and we know exactly where we're going to be holding that up because we've still got the hook. So there we are. Now we've learnt how to make the traditional wreath and we finished that, we'll go on to make the contemporary wreath, which is a lot quicker and a lot easier. To make this wreath, you'll need a range of items. Firstly, you'll need a bunch of birch twigs. To help shape it, you'll need a wreath ring, like the one we use for the traditional, a couple of pairs of scissors, and a little tiny bit of raffia. And in here we have a range of items that will make it look nice. Some cones, baubles, cones that have been sprayed, some orange slices, cinnamon sticks, very much like we use with the traditional wreath, and a couple of different wires. And these wires, I'll show you how to use those wires later. Also, we have some artificial flowers. It's easy to make your Christmas wreath look really interesting when you've got these as well. To make the base then, you need to tease out your twigs so that they're in a line. And if you need to trim any of the thick branches off, it's a good time to do that now. If there are some very thick branches like this one, I would take that off because we're going to try to get this to twist, and it won't twist if it's too thick. So lay them together. Take this one out as well. It's going to be too hard to twist. If you think you've got too many, you can actually add them in later. So I'm just going to gather them together and twist. And keep twisting until you feel as if you've got a reasonable length. And that one there is not playing ball at all, so what we'll do is we'll move this round and then fold the wayward bits underneath. So just to give yourself an idea of the shape you're making, just put your ring underneath. I mean, that's not bad at the minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue folding, and then I'm going to use my raffia, which is I've coiled. I've got about 6 strands of raffia. You can buy this again. You can buy this in a garden centre, which is really inexpensive. And then I'm going to find a bit that I think that I need just to bind to keep it together. So I'm going to take this bit here because I can see I've got a bit of a wayward piece there. And I'm going to find the centre, and then I'm going to hold it in my hand like that and put it over and bring, so I've got a loop here, I'm going to bring the raffia, the ends through, so that I'm holding these pieces in place, and give it a tug. And you can see that that has held twigs together. And then just tie the top. This can be used just to hang on the door or just as a temporary measure. So I'm just going to make it like that. So you've got another little loop. One easy way of finishing off is to make a garland of cones and wrap it round. I'm going to use what we call bullion wire, which is a very fine wire which we use in floristry, and this is really useful because it actually blends in with the colour of the twigs. And what we do is very similar to how we wired the cones before when we'd made the traditional wreath, and this time, because it's such a fine wire, I'm going to leave leave an end and run it round between the a couple of times between the scales and twist, leaving that end and then going on a little bit further, leaving a space, around a couple of times, twist and then leave a space. A couple of times round, twist and leave a space. And that makes a nice length of cones that you don't have to keep individually wiring on. And you'll probably need about 2 50cm long pieces. And then you're going to wrap them round the wreath. Start off at the top. It's easier to do this in smaller lengths. So as you go, turn it, wrap it round, and try not to get tangled up, because that's what happens if you have got too long a piece. So keep going round. And as you can see, I've got singles and doubles. So that's the end of one. And I'm going to push that underneath one of the twigs to hold it in place. Get the other piece. Start it. I'm going to start with a single one. That'll work better. And over we go. And keep going round. Wrapping it round as you go. There we go. So here's the wreath wrapped with your cone garlands. Gives it a bit more shape and makes it look a little bit more festive. So what we need to do now is to add some extra items to make it look even more festive. I'm going to put some baubles on, and we're also going to put some orange slices and some cinnamon sticks, which I've already prepared as I showed you in the traditional wreath. An easy way of attaching the baubles is to thread them through, leaving a long enough piece to tie round the wreath, because we're going to go round the wreath. Just a little bit longer. And then I'm going to tie just one knot like that. So we've got our baubles and we've got the other items as well. So you need to place them so that they're quite even. So, and we usually use 3s and 5s. So just see what you think that looks like when you've got them arranged. That would be fine. And then maybe put the cinnamon sticks and oranges together. And there. Around the edge. Just to see what it looks like. And this is upside down to me, so I'm going to turn it round so that I can see what I'm doing. And that would be better just there, I think. And there. So first of all, then I'm going to take my raffia round the back of the wreath, bring it forward and tie it in the middle of the placement where I've got the 2 baubles. Snip the ends off. And again, finding the right position. And this is also going to hold together the twigs. Tie it on. And snip. Move round. Tie on. I'm using raffia because we've got the handle in raffia, but if you were using something else, you could also use some tinsel if you wanted to, and that would work quite well. Or you could also use garden twine, the natural garden twine, which is in here, and that works well too. twist, turn and snip off. So we've got our 3 placements, and then with the oranges and cinnamon sticks, you put a hook on the end. You can just feed that in once you've just twisted them together, and then it won't come out. It shouldn't fall out. So again, twist them together. Make it into a hook and then press it in. That shouldn't come out. Last one, hook on the end and push in. You can see that one's come out. So there we go. Let's just add a couple of the Christmas flowers. These are actually artificial poinsettia. Again, find where you think would be a nice place to put. Just press in. These come on stem as a bunch. You just need to trim them off when you need them. I'm going to put a few on just to give it a little bit more interest. And just work out the best way. I'm putting some in the middle facing the centre and some facing the outside, and that does tend to work quite well. So here we have the finished wreath, which we've wrapped with the cone garland, the baubles, cinnamon sticks and orange slices, which need to stay in place, and our artificial poinsettias, just to give it a little bit of a lift. So I'm going to show you another couple of ideas using the twig base for a wreath. If you have some spare twigs, you can just fold them and join them at the top, make it into a swag. Here we've got one that has the same wrapping of cones, but we've got a whole range of different extra accessories, similar to the one that we just made, but with a little bit fuller. And I've put some ribbon on in the same way that we made the ribbon for the bow rather, for our traditional wreath. And that one has a little hanging centre piece. And finally, again, a similar base with mostly wired on cones. Exactly the same method that we used when we did the traditional wreath. So here we have 4 different ideas for your twig bases. So that's how we make both traditional and contemporary wreaths. If you have any ideas that of things you'd like to see in the future, please drop them in the comments box below, and thank you so much for watching.